My manipulative husband stole my expensive purse to sell to his mother-in-law because she wanted it, so I took it back and divorced him. My mother-in-law has a habit of treating my things like her own, and she has been like this since the very first time I met her. I remember when I came over to her house for the first time, I left my phone unlocked and left it on the table while getting myself a glass of water, and she literally picked it up, started searching something on Google, then asked me why I needed such an expensive phone. I took it back right away and told her I was not comfortable with her using my phone without permission and asked her not to do that. She sighed as if I had just said something lunatical. Things like this kept happening each time I met her, with her taking my things without asking me first and then acting offended when I asked her to respect my boundaries. The worst thing of all was that my husband never stood up for me at all, even when I asked him to do so. He told me that this was just the way his mother was and that she did not take well to criticism, so he would not say anything to her. I told her if she kept taking my stuff I was not comfortable visiting her, and he rolled his eyes at me telling me it was not a big deal. It felt like my boundary was being stepped on, and considering we were only 6 months into the relationship, I gave him an ultimatum. I told him he either allows me not to see his mother or we are done. He agreed, and from that point on I saw her very rarely. But then our engagement came around and all of a sudden his mother started being very involved in the planning of our wedding and started overriding a lot of the decisions I was making. She even ended up going as far as asking me if she could also wear white to my wedding because she wanted to feel like a bride again. I told her no of course and threw a hissy fit. I talked to my husband about this and for the first time, he agreed to set a boundary onto her. However, he failed miserably at this and came back to me a few days later saying his mother felt very offended by him trying to parent her and would appreciate if he never said anything to her about the wedding. I was appalled at the lack of spine, but I still married him. What you need to understand was he was my dream man and he was very good at defending me in every single scenario. The one thing he could not do was go against his mother. Well, after the wedding his mother started worming her way back into our lives. At first she would come over to see the newlywed couple, and then she started inviting us over more frequently. The problem was, she was still the same and used my stuff without permission, using my expensive skincare cream without asking, using our dishes and leaving them unwashed, and once literally taking a jacket of mine and leaving with it without me noticing as she had placed it in her big travel bag she carried everywhere. When I found this out I went irate at her and went against my husband. I called her and demanded to give it back. My husband told me to let it go and he would buy me a new one, but I did not listen. I tore her a new one and literally forced her to drive back to the house that same day and give the jacket back. She had never been spoken to that way in her entire life and it showed. I felt very proud of myself that day. Well, about 4 months ago I got a brand new purse for myself, made of real crocodile leather, a purse I had been eyeing for a while. It was expensive but I decided to treat myself. The first time my mother-in-law saw this purse, however, she started gushing over it and asked me if she could use it just once for a day out, and so I told her no. She then offered to buy it off me, but I once again told her no and told her to buy it for herself from the store. Well, the next day she texted me saying they were sold out. I told her that's tough luck because she was not getting mine. I thought she actually relented. That was until a mere few days later I noticed that my purse was gone. I asked my husband where it was and he smiled and said he had sold it to his mother like I agreed to. My eyes went wide and I asked him to explain. He said that the day before he got a call from his mother and she said that she and I made an agreement for her to buy the purse. But the mother-in-law needed it that exactly day and asked if my husband could drop it off to her right now. And so he did just that. I exploded at him, asking him why he wouldn't ask me first, and he shrugged and said I don't know. I asked him how much he got for it, and he stated an amount which was around 2/3 of what I paid for it. I was devastated. I screamed at him that he should know I wouldn't just sell my mother-in-law my purse, but he stated that he can just buy me a new one. I said I want my own purse back, because it's mine and I felt connected to the item. And so I went on a mission to get it back. It actually wasn't surprisingly hard. I just had to wait a few weeks, pretend everything was fine, then ask my husband if he wanted to go to dinner at his mother's house. While at the house, I talked about the bag and told both of them that I had done some thinking and that I actually did not need the bag and I was glad for my mother-in-law to keep it. Well, I excused myself to the toilet at some point and went through her room, where I found the bag in her closet. I brought it downstairs and quietly put it in a large bag I brought. I then made the excuse of having terrible period cramps and wanting to go home ASAP, urging my husband to stay and hang out with his mother. I drove home myself and got my husband to agree to getting a taxi. In reality, I went home and packed my bags, leaving behind a note that I was contacting a divorce lawyer. And so I took my purse, all my belongings, and headed out the door before my husband was even back. I stayed at my best friend's until I found a place of my own and am currently in the process of divorce. I still have my purse too.